Alrighty, we are live. Wonderful. Awesome. Just checking some settings real quick. Looking good. Looking good. Welcome, you guys. Welcome. Happy Sunday. Thank you so much for joining me today. Thankfully, we've got internet back again. So unlike last week, we should ideally not have any delays or lags or anything like that, hopefully. I do appreciate your guys' patience. Sorry about last week, but we should be smooth today. Hi, Rini. Hi. Happy Sunday. Hello, Gemma. Hello, guys. The weather's getting there. It stopped snowing. So there's that. Yay. It's actually doing a lot better. Yeah, everything's finally starting to melt. Hello, April. Hi. Hi, Mimi. Hello, Kim. Hello, Mohammed, Jana, Apollo. Hey, guys. Good morning. Good morning. Or good afternoon or good evening, wherever in the world you may be. Hey, guys. Hello, cats. Hello, Chi-chan. Hello, John. Hello, Maria. Wonderful. I'm getting some people coming on in. Excellent. Hello, Manny. Yes, Manny, I am getting caught up. You will hear from me today. I am getting caught up on emails all this weekend. A lot of catching up to do. Been working off of my hotspot for the last week and a half, 2 weeks before the internet came back on. So which sometimes would like to work, sometimes not. But yes, this whole weekend is about getting caught up on emails. Right after this, it's going to be emails all afternoon. So absolutely getting back to everyone today as quickly as possible. Happy Sunday. Hi, Robin. Hi. Thank you. Thank you, Gemma. Appreciate you. All right, we'll get started here in just a moment. I'm going to give it another 30 seconds or so. Let people continue coming on in. Let everyone kind of get notified and come in, and we'll go ahead and get started here in just a moment. Appreciate you guys' patience, and we'll jump into some Q&As, which is my favorite. Awesome. Hey, Frank. Hi. Hello. Good to see you. I don't know if I've seen you before in a live. It's good to have you joining us. Hello, Nina. Welcome. Thank you, guys. Thank you. And I'm assuming the settings look good. I'm assuming everybody can hear me okay and see me okay. If for whatever reason anybody can't hear me or see me, just let me know. But on my end, everything looks good. So I think we'll be good to get started. All right. Just get a drink of some caffeine going. It's still a little bit early over here. All right. Okay. Welcome, you guys. Let's go ahead and get started. Let's jump on in. Okay. Just triple checking. All right. Again, you guys, welcome. Thank you so much for being here, joining for some questions and answers time. my absolute favorite time of the week. Just a few quick things, quick announcements before we get started. Thank you for everybody who has signed up with me over the last couple weeks. I do want to let everybody know that registration is now open again for my coaching program, the Mindset Mastery program, and I've actually been working on a lot of additions to it. So there's going to be even more topics to discuss, more things to unfold, more additions added to the program. Registration is now open. You can find all the information down in the description box. I've got payment plans available if anyone is interested in that. But basically, and anyone who has previously joined my group coaching program, you're obviously going to have access to all of the new additions as well. I've got just more information for you guys on the worlds within worlds, reality shifting, shifting between worlds, things of that nature, and also some guided hypnosis because I am, as of the last couple weeks, a few weeks ago, I got certified as a hypnotist. So those will be fun additions as well. Anyways, all the information is down below. If you're interested, check it out. You can register below. That will be starting on the 27th of this month, the day before my birthday. So it's going to be so much fun. And yeah, with all that said, let's go ahead and jump into some questions. Oh, and I am going to get to, I'm going to get to as many people as I can. Bear with me if the chat jumps around sometimes. I lose my spot. So if for whatever reason I don't get to you, I sincerely apologize. I'm not actively ignoring anybody. So with that said, let me see. I took your tip, Missy. I've been doing visualization exercises and started having more lucid dreams. Awesome. Yeah. Awesome, Chi-chan. Yeah, with practice, you will absolutely begin seeing your imagination muscle will get stronger. You'll start being able to more easily access the imaginal scenes, being able to add more dimension to them with the imaginal senses, and you'll absolutely start having more dreams, including lucid dreams. That will absolutely happen. That is really cool. Sorry, let me go way back up. Um, oh, it's already jumping around a lot. Sorry, guys. Be patient. 1 second. Hi, Missy. Sometimes I get the scene I imagined, but not what it implied to me. For example, I thought that lifting my hands implied they are healthy now, and when I lift them, they're now in pain. So sometimes I get the scene I imagined, but not what it was implied. For example, I thought that lifting my hands would imply that they're healthy, but now when I lift them, they're still in pain. Yeah, and I'm so sorry, Gypsy. It when it comes to our imaginal acts, we do want to make sure that we are imagining in as clear as possible terms, like being as clear and descriptive with our imaginal acts as possible. Because you may see something play out that you've imagined, but it may not be showing up exactly how you want, or it may not be implied the way that you wanted it to. A good example would be this massive snowstorm that I just got hit with, because I had, briefly imagined about a month ago, briefly imagined having a snow day. I wanted to get a snow day before we headed into spring, and we got pummeled with like 2 weeks of winter storms back to back because I wasn't clear that, I just wanted maybe a day of snow to be able to enjoy it. So yeah, being very, very clear with what we want, very clear with our definition of our aim. So I would construct a scene that implies that your hands are pain-free, that when you lift your hands, they are without pain. And I would get clear on that part. Because if you imagine that you're lifting you have the ability to lift your hands or your arms, that doesn't in and of itself say whether or not you can do that without pain. So I would make sure to get clear on the part without pain, if that makes sense. And one of the ways that you can do that is through an imaginal conversation, like imagining a conversation you would have with a family member or a friend, and hear them congratulate you or hear them express their gratitude and relief that you are now pain free. So I hope that makes sense. But we absolutely want to be very, very clear on what we are imagining. 100%. You read my mind. Yesterday's video was spot on. Thank you, Kim. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'd love to spend the rest of my life with my SP, but there's other things I'd like to focus on first. Finishing my studies, working on my self-concept, lots of solo traveling. So best would be if he came back at a later time and then stays for good. How to get over the fear of needing to bring him back ASAP though? Can't seem to fully let go of that for now. That's a really good question, Lissy. So how do we get over the fear of, needing to bring somebody in our life right now, or we would lose them for good? Like, for example, and correct me if I'm wrong, Lissy, but you would like the ability to focus on things solo right now and be comfortable and confident that when later on you can imagine and he would come back later and stick around, right? But there's that fear that if they don't come back soon, that we're going to lose them forever. That is a very common fear. We're all very much conditioned with that fear that the more time goes on, the more time passes, the likelihood of losing that person increases. I think that is an incredibly common fear that we have. And I guess the best way to overcome that is to, well, continue building your faith in the law. Because faith in the law means that you don't question that you can enter into those states at any point, at any time, right? So if you needed to focus on something right now, you absolutely could, and you would be full confident in knowing that when the time comes and you are ready to enter that state and enter into that state where, the two of you are back together again, that you could, because states are eternal. States are eternal. They don't go away, they don't disappear, they don't run away from us. But really the best way to believe that and be, at peace or feel that relief is by experience or, trusting and having faith in the law that this works. So I think in that case, it really is going to be the best, continuing to build your trust and faith in the law through testing it, through observation, just very close attention to what we're entertaining versus what is happening on the outside. We're going to inevitably see the clear connection between the inner world and the outer world, right? So, that with continuing to test the law, prove it to yourself, exercises that show you that you are in fact the operant power. I think that's going to be your absolute best bet. But know, regardless, that those states are eternal. You can absolutely focus on other things right now that you want to do. And whenever the time comes for you, whenever you feel ready to do so, you can turn your focus then to your SP. He's not going anywhere, basically. Missy, if we have impressed the subconscious mind successfully, is it okay if we keep imagining or doing SATs, or are we overwatering our planted seed? Good question, Adley. Good question. So once we have imagined an idea that has been accepted subconsciously, are we able to continue to use SATs or any kind of imaginal act, or is that overdoing it, basically? I think that's a fantastic question. And no, I wouldn't say, I mean, if you are feeling inspired to do so, if you're feeling the urge or the desire to imagine after impression, then you can. You absolutely can. It's not going to ruin or destroy anything, but you're going to find that the urge or the desire to continue to imagine after impression drops considerably. It's gonna go down considerably. You're not gonna feel pushed or the need or the urge to continue to imagine something once it's been accepted, once it's been impressed. That's going to naturally go away. I mean, if it comes up from time to time and you are feeling like, I wanna go here because it feels good, it feels nice to do it, then that's fine. That's totally fine. So long as that's not coming from a place of fear or feeling like you need to do it. But if impressed successfully, if impressed correctly, you're gonna have the natural urge to drop it, basically. Caught a couple lives here and there, but first time chiming in. Awesome, Frank. Awesome. Good to have you here, bud. Can you explain how going to be is as effective as stating you already have your desire? It is used a lot, and I don't understand how it is the same as the end, but sometimes feels easier. Good question, Jana. And I have made a couple videos talking about this, about living in the end and what that means. If you go into my search bar, if you or either the search bar on my YouTube page or even just the main page on YouTube, if you type in "Living in the End," Missy Renee, you should see a couple videos pop up on this topic. But the short answer is it's understanding that what you imagine becomes your reality. So whatever you imagine, whatever you saturate your mind with, whatever you are saturating consciousness in, is going to be expressed in the 3D, right? So it's having that fundamental understanding and that fundamental trust that whatever I imagine and whatever I accept as true is what is going to materialize in the 3D, right? So even if it's not here yet, once impressed, once accepted, it is going to happen. It has to happen. The 3D plays catch up, basically. Basically is what that means. So you already feel like it's, a done deal. You already feel ready for it, like ready that it's happening. When you are imagining, when you are in imagination, you are imagining from that place of already having it or already being the person that you want. But it's basically understanding that the 3D plays catch up, but what you imagine has to become your reality. Missy, I'm going through it. I think there may be a third party and I don't know what to do. It hurts. What do I do? I'm on vacation. I'm so sorry, Tammy. I am so sorry. I know that one of the absolute worst feelings to have is the fear of a third party. Um, if you're not sure though, if you're not sure, because I noticed there you say, I think there may be a third party. If it's not confirmed, especially if it's not confirmed in the 3D that there is a third party, everything in your ability, to the best of your ability, keep the focus on the end. And I know I know that that is not always easy to do. When there's a third party, we won't like, or even just the thought of a third party is enough to send us into a panic. But the best thing that we absolutely can do is give the least amount of attention to that as possible. The least amount, like as little energy and life that you can give to that is best, right? Because the key word there is I think, or but you don't know, right? There isn't 3D confirmation. So I would just get practice with redirecting, practice with pivoting the control of the imagination. Like that part of this practice is about the controlled imagination and the well-sustained attention on what we want versus what we don't want. And again, it is a practice. It is a practice. We may have to continually, that's not a word. We may have to continue to do it over and over again. Continue just practicing redirecting back to the end, back to the end, back to the end. 70 times 7. But, There is, especially if it's not confirmed, especially if it's not seen in the 3D yet, then it's purely an imagination right now. It's purely your imagination. It's all happening in your imagination. And in your imagination, you can give life to anything, right? So I know it's hard, but this is where we practice redirecting. Focused attention meditation, any kind of focused attention meditation is going to be a massive help in our ability to redirect and practice keeping the focus on something that we want versus something that we don't. Yeah. But also, it goes without saying, but don't accept it. Don't accept that there's a third party. Don't accept it. Reject the hell out of that. There is no third party. There is no third party because you are the operant power. You decide the state. You decide the state to experience. You decide the state to embody. So reject the notion. Flat out is what I would do. And same thing to you, Nina. Same thing to your question. Same exact thing. Hi, Missy. Living in imagination feels amazing, and I tell myself I will not let 3D trigger me since I live in imagination a lot. However, once something slightly goes wrong in 3D, it triggers me. Any tips? Absolutely. Absolutely. And that is going to happen. That is going to happen. We're going to get triggered by 3D a lot. That's going to happen. We are so conditioned to the 3D. Like that, a strong attachment to the 3D because it's always been like that. We've always had that forever and ever and ever. We've been conditioned and we're, we've always been moved by the 3D. So it's, if it happens, that's okay. I guess the first thing is to not be hard on ourselves, which we're really good at doing, and go easy on ourselves. Give yourself the grace to have moments and know that it's not going to be perfect 100% of the time. You can always come back and revise later. And I would do just that. If you have a moment, if something triggers you, if something upsets you, then okay, let it pass, let it just kind of run its course. And then before bed that day, before you go to sleep, just revise it. Revive the incident that upset you, revise the reaction that you had, revise it. Absolutely. And also you can check out, I made a video not too long ago talking about triggers and how we can actually use that to our advantage to help us determine what we are still attached to. Because our reactions tell us a lot. Our reactions explain a lot of things to us. So I would definitely check out that video that I made recently about triggers as well. Hey, Misty, can I manifest something as crazy as a sex change, changing assigned gender? If so, how could I go about doing that? Should I just visualize someone referring me as that sex? I would. Absolutely. Absolutely. So if you have a desire to reassign your gender, right? I would hear the confirmation of that. Hear somebody call you by your preferred name, by your preferred pronouns, whatever that looks like for you. Even if that's visualizing, seeing yourself in the mirror as the person that you want to be. But absolutely, Apollo. Absolutely. I would imagine some kind of confirmation that you are now this person, if that makes sense. Yeah. How do we stop checking the 3D? Feel in a constant loop of checking his Instagram to see if he is single and then reacting depending on what I see. Yeah. Yeah. The 3D is a bitch. I know, guys. The 3D can absolutely suck. But again, just as I was saying a minute ago, like that's our conditioning. That's our conditioning, Jen. We are so acclimated to reacting and responding to the 3D. And the way that we stop doing that, well, first I got to stop that social media. Like, whether that's deactivating Instagram, whether that's unfollowing, whatever that's going to take. But if we feel that impulse and it feels like we have no control over it, that we're constantly turning back to the social media, to their profile to check to see something, first thing that I would do, and I know this is not going to be easy to do, but disengage from that. Disengage from that. Truly, I would. It doesn't have to be permanent. It doesn't have to be permanent, but that is going to be hard to do if you're going to continue, like if you're continuing being pulled back to the 3D, continuing to be pulled back to checking his profile. Get the social media out of the picture. Get any points that could be potentially triggering out of the picture, first and foremost. But second, what we want to understand is that the more that we practice living from within, the practice that living from that state of the wish fulfilled internally in imagination, we're going to start becoming more and more conditioned to this world versus that world out here. So it is continuing. It is going back within. If you get triggered by something, that's okay. That's going to happen, guys. You're going to get triggered by the 3D. That's going to happen. And that's okay. If that happens, we can come back and revise later. We can come back and, imagine that a different outcome had happened instead. But if there's something in the 3D that is a constant point of trigger for you, I would take that out of the equation for sure. When we're listening to sleep affirmations, can we have such a strong reaction to them? I've been listening to my own for about a week, and a side effect has been severe melancholy. What the hell? Yeah, we can absolutely have strong reactions to sleep affirmations. Absolutely, absolutely, John. That can and does happen. 100%. Da, da, da. What can we have such a strong reaction to them? Yeah. And they may not always be great reactions. They may not always be ideal at first. A lot of people have reported that, when starting to listen to sleep affirmations, they may have strong aversions to them initially. And it's basically resistance, in short. That's the old man trying to put up a fight. But inevitably it does get better. It does get better. If you're able to continue and sort of get through the initial first week or two at most, of any sort of adverse feelings or not ideal feelings, and it usually isn't even that long. Typically in the first couple of days, you should notice it being relieved. If it's getting worse, if it's getting, to a point where it's very difficult for you, then naturally I would stop, or I would find a different track to listen to. But it's not uncommon. It's not uncommon to have reactions to sleep affirmations. No. Hi, Missy. In what book can I read/learn more about life after death, please? What do you recommend? Awesome question. I don't think Neville goes into that much that I can recall. I don't think he goes much into any of that in any of his books. I mean, a little bit in the Law and the Promise, when he talks about the promise in the last chapter, a little bit, but in some of his lectures he does. One moment, I'm trying to pull it up to see. I forget which lectures. Sorry, guys, one second. His lecture Pre-Existence is a really good one. Pre-Existence from 1969. He talks a lot about life after death in that one. So I would check that one out. Yeah. Uh, You're welcome, Gypsy. Uh, you're welcome. I had this deep knowing feeling on Friday that something was going to happen slash hear from SP, like nothing I've experienced before. Nothing came about and it set me backwards. I'm really surprised at myself as I feel like I understood my I am and shifted immensely, but now I'm back to my old thoughts I haven't had in months, feeling frustrated as I know I'm worthy. Any tips? I am so sorry, Gemma. Um, Deep knowing on Friday that something was going to happen. So Friday was 2 days ago. So if you had a deep knowing that something was going to happen, I guess the first thing that I would ask is what was the expectation that you were going to hear from him within 24 hours, and that if it didn't happen in 24 hours, that it wasn't going to happen. And I don't mean any of this in any sort of negative way. I'm trying to understand this deep knowing, this feeling of deep knowing. Did it come with an expiration, or did it come with like, because when we're truly in the Sabbath, when we are truly in that Sabbath, it's a very it's very relaxed, and it doesn't feel like, there's any sort of time frame associated with it. Like it I don't know if that's making any sense, but I would check the expectations, and I would check to see what is the story that you have about your person. As I mean, I have zero doubt that you are, that your worth. You know you are worthy. You know that you deserve and have all the worth about love and accept, a relationship with this person. You know your worth about that. But is there any part of the story, any sort of attachment to that old story when it comes to this person? Um, and I would do some deep reflection on that, right? And understanding too that this should not be about getting a person back. This should be about getting to the place where we are in that. It's like it can sometimes feel like a knowing, but it feels like we are good. Like everything is going to work out for us. It doesn't even have to be specific about this person, but it's a general feeling of we are content. We are okay, right? It's a very relaxed, calm state without any kind of specific attachments to that. So I would start with doing some deep reflection on this story and seeing if anything is still there, right? And also, what is the expectation that we're holding on to when it comes to, this person, these imaginal acts? Are we putting time frames on them? Are we saying like, okay, if it doesn't happen within this amount of time though, then it didn't work? Because the law doesn't work like that. There is no way to gauge about how long it's going to take, right? Like I guess if you move into the Sabbath or move into that state of knowing, but say, okay, but in 24 hours, if it doesn't happen, I'm gonna say, what the hell? Yeah. just do some deep reflection on the story that's still there, is what I would do. And the other part is we got to be extremely honest with ourselves. Like, we cannot deceive ourselves in this practice. God cannot be mocked, right? So, are we being completely honest with ourselves about where we are and what in this new story, in this new state with this person? So, I would be just doing some reflection on that and see what comes up for you. See what is illuminated for you. See if there might be any attachments to that old story that you may not have been aware of. See, what these expectations were and why, things like that, right? And that's where I would start. But no matter what, that the aim is to continue to move into the state of the wish fulfilled until we do not have the urge to continue doing so, and it feels like a calm, confident, secure place within ourselves. Because the SP is the byproduct of the change that takes place within us, right? I hope that made sense. Hi, Missy. Curious question. How do you personally handle mistreatment from the outside, knowing everyone is you pushed out? How do you personally handle mistreatment from the outside? Like me personally, is the question? How I personally handle mistreatment from the outside, knowing everyone is you pushed out? Revision. Revision. If anything on the outside shows up in a way that is not ideal, whatever that looks like, whatever form that shows up in, I revise it. I'm very, very vigilant about revision. I usually every single day, if there was anything in the day that was not to my satisfaction, even if it's, small, minute things, which most of the time it is, but I revise daily. I revise every single day. And that's the more that you continue to do that, the more and more of a habit it becomes. The more and more you're going to naturally start to, without even thinking about it, go over the day in the way that you would have wanted to see it. Then you're going to do that every night. And it's only a couple minutes, right? I mean, if anything shows up that may be, big, like anything that shows up in a way that, like, okay, this definitely needs to be changed, I'll revise on the spot. Yeah, revision. What I don't do is, try to fight with that person or attack that person. If it is coming from a person, I won't try to spin my wheels into 3D because that never works. It never works. Any suggestions on not expecting negative past events to continue? Good question, Amy. Any suggestions on expecting negative past events? Yeah, so and that's really a big hurdle that a lot of us face. Like, if something negative happened in the past, if something bad happened to us in the past, it, it's easy for us to gauge and base future events off of that past event, right? We take aspects of the past and use it to sort of determine or gauge what's going to happen in the future. And that's a habit that we absolutely want to break if it was not ideal. And I guess the two ways that I would say to start doing that is, number one, revision. Revising, whatever those negative past events were, revising anything that shows up in the day, if it's a trigger or a reminder for you, but also it's understanding states of consciousness, right? It's understanding that just because this experience happened, that this was a state that you had experienced before, that it doesn't mean that you have to continue to occupy said state. You do not have to continue, as we can move anywhere in imagination. We can go anywhere, we can do anything. We do not have to continue the cycle. We do not have to continue this pattern. And knowing that there are infinite states of consciousness to experience, that becomes possible to us. That becomes possible for us. So yeah, revision and remembering and understanding states of consciousness, that just because this thing had happened before does not mean I have to continue to experience it. Not at all. Imagine a conversation. Missy, whenever I imagine a conversation with someone, I imagine a person I no longer have contact with. Is it still functional? Whenever I imagine a conversation with someone, I imagine a person I no longer have contact with. Is it still functional? Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You mean, would it still count, or would it still like, is that still a valid thing to do? Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't matter whether or not you have contact with them in the 3D. Not at all. Yeah, Jana, this the same thing that I replied to Amy's question and can be applied to yours as well. Hi, Missy. I recently found out that one branch of the military that I have always been interested in increased their age limit, but now I'm past the limit. Would revision help fix this? Yeah, absolutely, Kevin. Revision, or even imagining receiving, acceptance from said branch of the military, whatever that looks like to you, even just imagining the outcome that you desire to see, that would be sufficient. And something that implies that whatever the case was, even if it's, outside, if you're past the age limit, they waived that for you, or they waived that rule altogether. But yeah, either revision or imagining an acceptance letter. I'm not sure what that would look like exactly. You probably have a better idea than I do, but I would imagine that 100%. Hey, Missy, how do you know when you've planted the seed successfully? As in, successfully impressed the subconscious? Thank you. Good question. Good question. Oh, no, no, no. No. No, baby. My cat's being a diva again this morning, guys. Sorry. So, how do you know that you've planted the seed successfully? Good question. Um, it's difficult to miss. I'll put it that way. When you've had a successful impression, when something has been accepted subconsciously, like for example, if it happens while doing sats or any kind of imaginal act, you'll feel it. Like you will. There's most of the instances, but virtually every instance that I have when I do sats, coming out of it, I'll feel like I was actually there, or it really happened. It's a feeling of realism. It's a feeling of, how do I put it into words? It feels like acceptance of something. It feels like relief. It feels like satisfaction. Um, it's very difficult to miss. If you're questioning whether or not it happened, it probably didn't. Probably not, because it's very difficult to miss something that has been accepted subconsciously. Yeah, you will know. Hi, Missy. I've been manifesting marriage, and my SP is ghosting me. Should I affirm for contact or persistent marriage? Manifesting marriage, and my SP is ghosting me. So, should you use affirmations for contact with your person or persistent marriage? I mean, which one resonates with you more? Which one feels, if there's one that feels more challenging, that feels like there's more resistance attached to it, then, that one I would obviously discard, or, know that you can come back to that, right? And basically, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, your question is implying like manifestation in steps, which is absolutely a thing that you can do. Which is absolutely a thing that you can do. If it feels more natural and easier for you to use affirmations or imagine for reconciliation and for contact, then you can do that. We just want to remember to not stop there if it's not the end, right? Keep going to the end, or keep building up that ladder. One of the common things that happens to a lot of people is, they'll imagine a text message or talking to their person again, but then stop. Like it just kind of, they won't, whether that's thinking that it's going to keep going from there, and then it doesn't, just make sure that you're continuing to move up that ladder, so to speak. But if it's easier for you to, it resonates more to imagine contact or reconciliation, then I would do that, right? Versus trying to battle yourself to imagine or affirm for something that, your mind is trying to reject. If that makes sense. Thank you. What are your thoughts on signs and synchronicity? Is it happening? My what are the thoughts on signs and synchronicities? I mean, they're cool to see. They can certainly give us a boost momentarily. Um, but as Neville famously always said, signs follow, they do not precede. So a sign in and of itself is not indication that something is going to continue happening from there, right? And I know that we're very much inclined to look for signs as humans. We very much want to see evidence in the 3D to keep us going or to prove to ourselves, help us believe that we're on the right track. But they're going to follow, like whatever sign is going to happen is going to follow that. It's not, or yeah, like if you, for example, if you imagine, like, I don't know, seeing somebody's name or seeing somebody's car, um, seeing that person's car is not going to be indication that you're like going to continue to see a bridge fold out from that, right? Like it's just the sign that you're seeing is just the impression that you had playing out, if that makes sense. So I'm not a big fan of trying to manifest or look for signs or like continue to look to the 3D for signs that things are going to happen. Um, Continue going to the end. I hope that makes sense. I know that can be a bit confusing, but essentially signs follow. They don't happen before your manifestation's going to come about, right? Like if you see a sign for something, it's just because that was an impression and that impression is playing out. It doesn't mean that it's going to go somewhere from there. I hope that's making sense. Yeah. The best sign that we can use, the best signs that we have that are actually going to help us is how we're doing and how we're feeling internally. Like, what are the thoughts, feelings, and reactions that we're having in our day to day? Those are going to give you everything that you need to know about the occupied state, so the dominant state that you're occupying, what you're still attached to, what ideas you're still attached to. It's all internal. That's what we want to start conditioning ourselves to look towards, not to the outside. We're reconditioning that natural instinct to look to the outside. In yesterday's video, you said imagining a message/reunion isn't messing with the middle. So then would imagining something that would occur prior to our desire be considered a separate manifestation? Mhm. Mhm. Yes. Mhm. 100%. It's a separate seed that you're planting entirely. Which is why we absolutely want to continue to move to the end. We absolutely want to remember, like, I'm always gonna stress the importance of going to the end. Like, do not stop if it's not the end yet. Like, that's the reason that so many people teach to go straight to the end is to avoid people imagining a text message and then assuming that things are gonna keep going from there. Like, assuming that if you plant the seed of a text message and expect marriage to come out of that, that's not a thing. That those are two very different things, right? So, but it is a separate manifestation. It is a separate seed that you're planting. Anything that would be the middle. So just remember to continue to move yourself to that end. Like if you need to do it in steps, basically, that is fine. Just and that, like, we want to continue to move to the end in one form or another. Missy, can you make a video on how to do revision as your ideal self so you can respond the way you want and how to know you've successfully done so? Yeah, Nico, I have made a few videos about revision already. I've made like 2 or 3 videos about revision, and I outline in great detail about how to go about revising aspects of you, and aspects of character changes, any aspects that we want to change if we want to gain more confidence, more trust in ourselves, love for ourselves, anything like that. Yeah, I would check out those videos, unless I'm missing something as your ideal self. Get very clear first on that ideal self. Like, what are the character aspects of that ideal self? Get very clear on that first. And then anything in your anything that stands out in recent memory that is opposite of that, that conflicts that ideal self, revise that. Sometimes synchronicities. Did I miss something here? Sorry, guys, going back real quick. I feel like I might have missed something. One sec. Hi, Missy. Can I revise a weight gain? I gained a bunch of weight after my son was born. And I was wondering if it's possible to revise that it never gained it. If so, how do I go about it? I mean, absolutely, you can, IK. You can do that, so that it never happened. Well, it may be more natural or feel more natural to just imagine weight loss. Imagine yourself losing weight. I'm not sure. I'm not sure which one of those might be easier. I would play around with that. But if ultimately the aim is to lose any weight, then I would imagine hearing confirmation or seeing confirmation of that specifically. Whether that's talking to a friend and hearing confirmation from them, whether that's stepping on a scale and seeing that number down considerably, whatever that looks like. But that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that may be a bit more of a natural way to go. But you can revise that there was not weight gain after you had your son. Absolutely. And probably the best way to go about that would be confirmation from somebody shortly after your son was born. Like, oh my gosh, you look amazing. You look like you barely gained an ounce, or all of the whatever you gained during pregnancy is completely gone. Something along those lines. That's how I would personally, revise that any of that had happened. What would you say to somebody who wants to manifest things like superpowers? I mean, we are superpowers. We are superheroes. Absolutely. Patience, 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 and practice, 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 practice is what I would say. Is they're really, I mean, the mind is a muscle. The mind is like a muscle. I mean, it literally is, but the imagination too, right? And that is the most powerful creative force that we have. That is our tool. That is our greatest gift, is our imagination. And what we are doing here is essentially exercising that and strengthening that. But it's going to take practice. It's going to take some patience. But it's worth it. You're welcome. Spark. So it also depends on the superpowers that you'd want. That's another thing too. So, I mean, there have been accounts of humans doing things like levitation, telepathy. These are not things that have never happened. These are not events that have not been documented. I mean, superpowers are absolutely a thing that can happen. Oh, damn it. Lost my spot. Shit. I stopped checking social media after I saw something devastating and spiraled big time. Oh, I've learned my lesson and it also setting me back. Don't do it. Yeah, um, social media is not always the best idea. Um, definitely depending on the state that you are dominantly occupying at the time. Um, if you have been experiencing a lot of stress, apprehension, anxiousness around a person or anything like that, going to check their social media from that state is probably not going to have anything there that we like. Like, let's say I want to live the rest of my life with the ability to move and transform things with my mind. That kind of thing has been my biggest wish since I was a kid, and it's never faded. Um, yeah, I mean that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. The ability to move and transform things with my mind. That sounds like you're describing manifestation. um, you mean in like an amplified way? I'm assuming. Um, yeah, I would continue practicing imagining. I would continue to exercise that imagination muscle, visualization exercises, meditation, um, and continue to go from there. But what you're describing is exactly what we're doing. We just haven't been aware of it. And it is much more keyed low. It's much more subtle naturally. But the more you continue on this journey and the more that you continue to explore the law, observe the law and effect and what you're doing and strengthening that, you're going to see crazier and crazier things that's going to happen. How many things how many things maximum would you recommend to manifest at the same time in order to be able to focus on all of them enough? This may differ person to person. How many would you take on at the same time? That's a good question, Rocky. And that is something that is absolutely going to be different from person to person. How many different, you know, desires should we focus on at the same time? It really is going to vary from person to person. I mean, I would say if you are feeling overwhelmed or exhausted or burnout at the idea of how many you're trying to do right now, I would lessen it. If there's something that feels the most pressing, if there's something that you have the strongest desire toward, I would focus on that and I would use something like, isn't it wonderful, in my day-to-day practice. And I actually every single day use isn't it wonderful. It's a much more general scope. It's not focusing on any one thing in particular, but you're gonna see the blessings that occur in every aspect of your life. You're gonna see unfoldings and changings in every area of your life. So yeah, it's gonna be different for everybody, but if you have multiple things that you desire, absolutely implement Isn't It Wonderful or the Lullaby Method. Mhm. Hi, Missy. I have manifested my dream house, but somehow feel like material things are easier for me to manifest than relationships with my children and SP. Is this a limiting belief? Yes. Yeah, it is. I have manifested my dream house, but somehow feel like material things are easier for me to manifest than relationships with my children and SP. It is a limiting belief because it's not true. It feels true, and this is something that I know I certainly struggled with, and a lot of people certainly struggle with this. That material things, material objects, like manifesting a car or house or small things, feel much easier than people, than manifesting changes in people, um, and that's almost to be expected because of how we've been conditioned to think of other people. Like with their own set of free will that we can't impede and impose on, that they have their own, independent mindset from us and things of that nature is mostly where that stems from. And again, this is not at all have anything to do with like manipulating someone or imposing ourselves on someone else. Not at all. But the idea of free will is also not it's not real. It's an illusion. Um, I would continue to put to practice, put to the test, and observe things with everyone as you pushed out. I would build my trust and strength in everyone as you pushed out. And that's what I would kind of focus on if you want to overcome this belief or this idea that material objects or things are easier to manifest than people. I would strengthen my conviction in everyone as you pushed out. And that's what I did. That's how I overcame the same kind of idea that, oh well, manifesting a free cup of coffee or, whatever, even money felt easier for me than seeing a change in somebody else. And you can combat that by strengthening your conviction in everyone as you pushed out. And you will see it. You will absolutely see that people are going to show up in the way that we assume or think that they're going to show up, whether specifically the people, like the specific people in our life or people at large, whether that's a more general conception or, the specific assumptions that we have about other people, we're going to see it. We're going to see it. So I'd continue to strengthen that conviction in everyone as you pushed out. Hi, Misty. Thank you for your answer. When I do SATs, I have an assurance it's done. Do I have to feel relief, happiness, and freedom? It's about money. Thanks a lot. Um, do you have to? No, no. I mean, a lot of times when doing SATs or imagining, an outcome with money or, most other things, you typically will notice a sense of relief, a sense of freedom. Um, Satisfaction, things like that. Yeah. It's common to notice things like that, but do you have to? No, not necessarily. It may not feel like much of anything. All bad or good things happening to us means we manifested that. Some things happened to me that I didn't even think about once. Why is that? Good question. Good question, Pixie. And this is a big one. And this is a hard pill to swallow. It certainly was for me, and it is for many people. But yes, basically, all things that happen to us, and Neville himself, and many other new thought teachers, not just Neville, but Neville certainly did not mince words when he said, "Us and us alone are responsible, or that we are the cause of the things that we experience." Um, and if we don't believe that, then that leaves room for doubt and fear to creep in and to question ourselves. It leaves room for second guessing, and we want to avoid that. So yeah, it's all all things that happen, all things that come into our experience stem from us, stem from a seed that was planted, impression that was had. And some things happen that you didn't even think about once. Well, are you sure about that? Because you got to remember too, like we have 70,000 thoughts a day. Do we catch all of those? Probably not. Probably not. We may catch a few dozen at most. Um, so it's easy to remember, and this is why I stress the importance of observation and continuing to really strengthen our conscious observation of what we're thinking, what we're feeling, how we're reacting, because a lot of this gets overlooked. And Neville said this all the time. People forget. People forget when they planted a seed, when they left an impression, and then something happens. It could be days, weeks, or months later that you completely forgot about, and then it happens. And that's why we're left like, what the hell was that? Where did that come from? Because we completely forgot, right? So it's a common occurrence. It happens all the time. And that's why really strengthening our observation and really paying attention to what we're entertaining in our day to day. And that's not to say that we're going to catch all 70,000 thoughts. Don't try to do that. But just really start to closely observe where things are stemming from because it can be so subtle. It can be like a whisper in the back of your mind that has been completely going under the conscious radar. But yes, everything that we observe and experience in the 3D was once a seed that was planted. Period. Period. Is it normal to get tired of manifesting coaches? I've literally stuck with a handful and unfollowed so many who progressively got annoying and repetitive. Is this a sign of growth? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, Applebum. Yeah. Yeah. On this journey, as you've, as strengthen your resolve, as you begin to understand more, it's natural to not continue to need coaches anymore. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Oh, Missy, it literally feels like I'm being carried on a cloud. I feel amazing. Is this living in the wish fulfilled? Yeah. I love that description. It feels like I'm being carried on a cloud. And it does. It can sometimes feel a sort of like floaty. Uh, I've had the sensation that you're describing. Like you're being guided, you're being led. It feels good. It feels good. Yeah. It feels calm. It feels relaxing. Feels very natural. It feels amazing. Yeah. Yeah. I would say so. Misty, ever heard of the method of writing 55 affirmations for 5 days? What do you think of this method? Is writing affirmations more effective than saying them? Uh, it's a very common law of attraction method or technique. Uh, 55 times 5 or whatever. I mean, you can. I'm not going to tell anybody not to. We should play around with different techniques and different ways of application of the law and see what works for us. Because everybody's going to be different. Everybody's going to be different. And for some people, scripting things and writing things out helps them to really key in the focus and really put all of their attention into what they're writing, what they're affirming. So it may, but can I say definitively that this is the best method and it's going to be more powerful? I can't say that because it's going to be different for everybody. But when I did it personally, I hated it. My hand would get cramped. I was just, it was, yeah, it was not for me, but it might be for you. So there's only one way to find out. If I have a knowing that something relates to my manifestation is coming within a certain amount of time, is that my ego talking? If not, when and how can I know that my ego is leading me? Yes, absolutely. So if you have a knowing that something relating to your manifestation is coming within a certain amount of time, is that my ego talking? Yes, most likely. Very, very likely. I would say yes. Yes. Um, because awareness doesn't have a sense of time. Time is an illusion. Time is not real. To the ego, time is very real. And therein lies where we get stuck sometimes. Um, yeah, and that sort of goes to the point that I was trying to make earlier with Gemma here, and I probably was not making much sense, but the ego's the one that says this thing is happening in a certain amount of time, right? Or if it doesn't happen in a certain amount of time, then it's not working or it doesn't happen. Um, yeah, because awareness doesn't follow this idea of time because time doesn't exist. Yeah, yeah. So any kind of conditions like that is absolutely your ego talking, 100%. Hi, Missy. My kid is autistic and nonverbal. I can't visualize him talking and imagine him different. How should I go about this? That's a good question, Donna. So, if you have a desire for something that you struggle to visualize or imagine seeing anything different, um, the way that I would personally go about that is imagining a conversation with somebody else, like a friend or a family member, and imagine the dialogue and exchange with that person about the thing that you're trying to manifest. So, for example, talking to a friend or a family member about how you're noticing radical change within your son. He's talking now, he's communicating, he's starting to open up, and hear the excitement, feel that congratulations from that person, feel the you know feel into that conversation as much as possible. For myself, and I've noticed for a lot of people too, trying to imagine the encounter with this other person can feel very difficult, but talking about it with somebody that we normally talk to can feel more natural for us because we're used to talking to this other person. We can hear their voice in our mind. We can kind of get their mannerisms there. And for a lot of people, that feels more realistic, which is why imaginal conversations are one of my favorite things to do in the whole world because it can feel more natural doing that versus trying to have a conversation with your son in imagination. So I would try something like that. 100%. Thank you, Sina. Hi, Missy. What do you think is the best or easiest way to start to be able to visualize clearly? Good question. There are exercises that we can do to help us strengthen our ability to visualize. For a lot of people, visualization does not come naturally to us. Yeah, many people struggle with that because it again, it's like a muscle that we haven't exercised or used in a very, very long time, if ever, if ever. Um, so, one place that I would start is something very simple, like get an object and hold an object in your hand, like, I mean, I don't know, even your phone, right? Getting your phone out, holding it, seeing, like, observe this object, whatever it is. So, for example, I'm looking at this phone, I'm seeing this phone, and I'm getting as clear of a picture as I can, and then I would close my eyes and I would try to replicate what I was just looking at to the best of my ability. And I would just continue doing something like that. And it doesn't even have to start with a phone. It can be something as simple as an orange or an apple, a piece of fruit, right? Something that we've seen many, many times, and it's not going to feel difficult to try to reconstruct this image. And then just try to go back and capture all the details in your mind as best you can. Another exercise, and this one's a bit more advanced, I guess. I hate using that word, but one of the exercises that Neville did all the time is he would imagine himself, he would see himself, um, he would sit in his living room chair and imagine in his mind that he would get up, walk out to the hallway to the table with a telephone on it, and pick up the phone, set it down, and go back in his imagination. And he would just imagine that, and he would go back and forth in his mind over and over until it started to become a stronger and stronger picture. Because in our house, we're pretty well versed with what our house looks like, what our layout looks like. So it's also easier for us to capture the image or reconstruct that in our mind, right? But I would start with something simple that you've already seen a million times, and it's not going to be very challenging for you to, you know, recapture and reconstruct what that looks like. Yeah. Hi, Missy. When revising, how do I revise memories that would have never happened that come to mind off the old timeline once you revise the initial memory? Thank you. Good question, Mimi. How do you revise the memories that would have never happened that could come to? So, how do you revise the memories that would happen based on that first one? based on that initial memory, so events that followed that initial thing, um, well, if you revise that first thing that happened, if you revise the first thing that happened, then whatever came after that would have to, I mean, those would start to fade as well. And we would notice those memories starting to fade as well. Because if you take out the cause, right, the first thing that happened, you're going to see a removal of the effect or anything that followed that, if that makes sense. Um, so I would focus on continuing to revise that first cause, whatever happened. I would continue to revise that first thing in imagination because anything following that should naturally start to disappear as well. Yeah. So I wouldn't worry so much on trying to like go down the timeline and revise each single thing. I would start with the first thing and erase the hell out of it is what I would do. I'm sorry to bother you, Miss. Oh, you're not being a bother, Mohammed. You're fine. You're fine. What can I do in order to speed up my manifestation or to improve on it? Please answer if you can. Absolutely. I think that's, yeah, that's the $1,000,000 question. Everybody wants to know how to speed up your manifestation, right? Of course. Of course. Um, and I guess the simple answer is things show up the timeline or the time that it takes for something to show up is dependent on the naturalness of it. Typically speaking, like yes, there's exceptions that happen here and there, but typically speaking, the more natural something is, the more natural something feels, it's going to show up faster, right? So it's also remembering that this is about the frequency of visiting that state and making it become as natural to us as possible. That's why Neville would famously say it's not about the length of time, but the frequency of the state, the frequency that you occupy the state versus the length of time. So as much and as often as you can, getting familiar with that state, going into imagination. Don't just spend 5 minutes a day imagining and then spend the rest of your day living from that old state. Right? Like it that's really how we do it. The frequency of occupation determines how fast it comes, truly. How do you interact with people in conversations in your day to day who operate on the assumption that the 3D is in control? Do you tell them about the law? LOL. Or just go along with it? Um, it really depends on the person. It depends on what you assume this person is gonna how they're gonna react to something like the law. If you feel that they're receptive to it or that they could be receptive to it, then absolutely, if you feel, I guess if you feel comfortable talking to them about the law, then you should and you can, 100%. If you feel if what you're feeling in that moment is that this person is not going to be receptive, if they're going to laugh at me, or think I'm crazy, you don't have to. Naturally, in that case, I would like, just go with it. Just go with it. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to rebut that. You don't have to, you know, because you know that is not true, right? So doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. But yeah, if you feel that somebody that you're talking to is going to be open and receptive to the law, then absolutely, I would tell them. Another question. Sometimes I think it is too good to be true and then it falls through. Money, business deals, house selling. So do I go to the end? Yes, always, always, always continue to go to the end. Continue to go to the end. Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And be careful of the thought of it's too good to be true. Careful of that. I fell into that. That's what unraveled things for me in my person initially, is I kept going back to that it's too good to be true. It's too good to be true. Something bad has to inevitably happen. Like the other shoes has to drop at some point. And I was so guilty of that. And sure enough, it did. It always will. So we want to be absolutely careful with that. And if we catch ourselves starting to think that it's too good to be true, no, reject that entirely. Nothing is too good to be true. Nothing. Nothing, nothing, nothing. Yeah. But continue to go to the end. Absolutely. Missy, what happens when you visualize but a psychic reader picks up on the same future? Well, you manifested that. You manifested that. If a psychic confirms something that you had been imagining, you still manifested that. That psychic saying that. Yeah, psychic readers are not giving us independent information, and they certainly don't have the power to see something that like alters our course unless we let that happen. Yeah. We are the operators in our reality. We are the operators always. Oh crap, I just Yes, thank you, go girl. Make sure to hit the like button. Absolutely. What should we tell ourselves to be present as our manifestation is unfolding in front of us in the 3D, and how to get used and expect our desire appearing in the 3D? How can we get to the point it's natural? Good question, Nika. Well, that's really what the whole point of observation and testing this is, and continuing to live and grow in imagination. The point is to get to the place where it's natural to do this. That is the aim that we're all working to get to, or that we're all trying to get to, right? Um, and a big part of that is being present, is really being here now. Absolutely. Or if we are entertaining the past or the future, that it's something that we want, and those are ideal past and future events and not terrible ones. Yeah. But think about how something becomes natural for you regardless. Like put manifestation aside for a second. How do you get to the place of naturalness with something? Like say you're trying to pick up um, a new hobby, you're trying to learn a new language, or you're trying to play an instrument, learn a new instrument, learn a new skill, right? Well, how do you get that skill to become natural to you? It's the same idea. It's practice. It's practice. It's continually going back and back and back. That is going to strengthen that imagination. You're going to continue to notice that it becomes second nature for you, that you're automatically going to start going to the place that is more desirable for you versus the place that isn't. Yeah. What is your favorite Neville technique? Oh, I remember one. Or not. Well, I love that one too, but sorry. Isn't it wonderful? The lullaby method, basically. Absolute favorite. That and revision are probably tied for number one. Disconnecting Facebook felt hard at first, but doing it has been helpful. There are a lot of times I think, why did I even have it? Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes we absolutely need to disconnect from social media. If social media has been a trigger point, I would absolutely, absolutely. And it may feel hard at first because it's something that we're not used to doing, but yeah, we definitely want to avoid anything that could be a potential trigger for us to the best of our ability. What if you manifest an SP and it's not what you expected? Where does be careful what you wish for come in? Good question. What if you manifest an SP and it's not what you expected? Well, and the so the whole idea, the whole thing of be careful what you wish for is I don't like so much putting it that way, but be very clear on your aim. Get very, very clear on your aim. And this is another reason why we want to continue to imagine and entertain and ask questions so we get familiar with what does this ideal world look like? What does this ideal person show up as? Like, what are the ways that they would talk? What are the ways that they would think? What are the conversations that we would have? What are the aspects and the traits of this person? What is their characteristic like? Physically and, psychologically. Build as big and vivid of a picture as we can. Get as clear as we can on what that looks like, how this person shows up, in what way they show up. What are their mannerisms? Are the interactions between you two? And getting clear on all of that will very much help you to avoid anything showing up in a way that is unwanted. Yeah. Yeah. It's possible. Everything you can imagine is possible. There's a state reality that already exists. You just need to access it. Yes, Chi-Chan. Yep. Yep, yep, yep. What about urgent needs like money? We still have to live in a physical world. Yeah, we are having a physical experience, but it's all based on our imagination. The physical world is based on what we are imagining. 100%. 100%. And if we don't believe that, we can prove that to ourselves through observation and testing the law. But yeah, in human form, in this human form, we are having a physical experience. Yes, we are experiencing a 3D world and interactions, but it all stems from what we are imagining. All of it. All of it. Hi, Missy. My SP and I separated more than 2 years ago. I see very slow movement with him. We wanted a family. I'm running out of time, and I guess it puts a strain on my manifestation. What is your advice? First, we got to take the attention away from the 3D. I know that's hard. I know that's hard. It's not easy to do. But turning to the 3D constantly and wanting it to hurry up and being frustrated on how slowly it's moving is continuing to express itself. And the idea of running out of time, well, time is not real. Like, that is the perception that we have. The perception is, I'm running out of time. I need this to hurry. I'm running out of time. I need this to hurry. Well, if that is what we are experiencing, that's what we're observing, and that's what we're feeling, well, then what is going to be the outpicturing of that? It's not going to be ideal. So to combat that, we've really got to recondition where we are putting the attention and focus, and where we're putting our observation. Like, it's all internal. It's all internal. It's all internal, right? If we keep looking to the 3D to try to see if it's moving any faster, it probably won't. Continue to see what you want in imagination. That's what gets expressed. That's what gets expressed. That's what gets outpictured. Not looking and getting mad at the 3D. That's only going to continue to show you what you don't want. Crap. Hang on. Trying to find my spot. Sparkite, I'm trying to get to as many questions as I can. Hang on, please. And I'm also trying to get to anyone who hasn't had a question answered yet. I don't want to skip over anyone who I may not have answered any questions from yet. One moment. How to live in the end when the subject is worlds within worlds. It seems impossible to live in the end of your current reality is totally different from the desired reality. Nothing is impossible. Nothing is impossible. It looks to be that way because of the 3D expression, because of our attachment to the 3D. But think about it this way, guys. Like, for example, when we watch a movie or we get really lost in a good book or a good story, we're completely immersed in that world now. Like the 3D, we're not paying attention to the 3D stuff around us. It goes away entirely, right? We want to continue to get in the habit of that, like shutting out the 3D world around us and continuing to practice doing that because you can. You absolutely can shut out the 3D reality and you can continue to build on this reality in your imagination. And at first, it may not feel very strong. It may feel very weak considering, if you compare it between the two. But the more and more that you practice shutting out the senses, I mean, that was Neville's number one thing he said all the time, denying the evidence of the senses. We must deny the evidence of the senses. He said that on loop, on a repeat, and we need to continue to do the same. Yes, I know it's not easy to do, considering how much and how long and how real the 3D feels to us, but the more that you continue to go in and occupy that internal state and that internal world, it's going to strengthen. It's going to strengthen. It is going to. Like when I go into my imagination now and I step into a new place, it feels as solidly real as the 3D seat that I am sitting in right now. Whereas once upon a time, I couldn't fathom getting to that point. As early as a few years ago, I would close my eyes and I would see black and I would see darkness. I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't go anywhere. But now I can literally go anywhere in my imagination and it feels just as real. Just as real. Like to the same depths, to the same, like all of it. Feel just as real as where I'm sitting right now. Keep practicing, Chi-Chan. You will get there. You will absolutely get there. Yeah, 10 seconds in a new reality is freaking amazing. That's amazing. Congratulations. Where was I? That's awesome, you guys. I do have to get going soon, FYI. So I got time for maybe one or two more questions. I didn't see what your original question was, Sparkhead. I'm so sorry. Is it feasible to move quickly between worlds? Yeah. Is it possible? Yeah. If it was, I think that was your question earlier. Is it possible to move quickly between worlds? Like make jumps, basically? Absolutely. Absolutely it is. Sorry, guys. Have you ever watched any Joseph Rodriguez videos? If so, what are your thoughts? He's more entrepreneurial in his dealings. Joseph Rodriguez, is he the one that makes the PowerPoint presentations? I think that's who I'm thinking of. If not, if that is him, then I like him. I do. I think he's very thorough and I think he's very detailed. And his way of breaking things down are very clear and easy to understand. Yeah, I really like him. I do. If it's the person that I'm thinking of. I almost worried previously for being in the Sabbath. I almost worried myself previously being in the Sabbath, but realized it can work differently for everyone. Yeah, the Sabbath may not feel what we thought it might feel like. For a lot of people, the Sabbath, we expect it to feel very like big and grand, like a grand finale. It's very subtle. It's very, very subtle. It's very calm and it feels normal. It just feels normal. Yeah, which can take people by surprise. It can certainly be like, "This is different. Do I not want this thing anymore? Do I just not care?" No, it just feels natural to you now. You truly explain this so well. When I get frustrated and say it's not happening fast enough, people just say, "Be patient." Your explanation makes more sense. Oh, thank you, Amy. Thank you. I try to I try to be as descriptive and break things down to the best of my ability as much as I can. I really do try. Thank you. I know it's not easy to just have somebody say, "Oh, just be patient. Just be patient." It's like, ugh, that's easier said than done. I know. I know. How long did it take to reach this level of vivid imagination? For me? How long did it take me to reach this level of vivid imagination? Months. It took months. It took months and months of practicing every day. I practice every single day. Every single day. I don't know. I got to a point, something within me snapped, and I was done with the bullshit. I was done with the bullshit. And I kept going back to a phrase that my grandfather used to say all the time when I was little, that the textbook definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over again and expect different results. And he was right. He was absolutely right. I knew that if I wanted to see change, if I truly and seriously wanted to see change, I couldn't go back to my old bullshit. So I did. I was very, very firm with myself. I practiced every day. I strengthened myself every day. I became keenly observant and aware of what I was doing. And it still took months. It took months. But everybody is capable of doing the same. Everybody is absolutely capable of doing, like, we all have the same imagination. We all have one consciousness, one awareness. There's only one awareness, that is God. No, I don't have any special capabilities that you guys don't. That's not a thing. And also, just because it took me months doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to be the same for you. Everyone is going to have a different experience with that. Months of doing it every single day, multiple times a day. Keep that in mind too. My mom used to say, if you're walking through hell, keep walking unless you want to stay there. Oh, slow clap. That's good. If you're walking through hell, keep walking unless you want to stay there. I like that. I like that. I was asking about wanting to I was asking about wanting to do things like make stuff appear by snapping my fingers like in a cartoon. You absolutely have the ability to do that. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. We all have capabilities that it would absolutely blow your mind. Absolutely. And we're talking about the imagination is God, literally God. There are no limitations when it comes to God. None. None. And God became man so that man could become God. So yeah, all things are possible, you guys. Thank you, Chi-chan. Am I a Capricorn? No, I'm an Aries. I'm an Aries. Not that, I mean, astrology is cute, but I don't go off of any of that more. But I was born at the end of March. Yeah. Hi, Missy. I recently shifted to letting go of limits and started focusing on the end. Got a cash offer on my house after 10 months. Suggestions? I'm antsy. Keep focusing on the end the same way? Oh my God, Ashley, congratulations. That's amazing. I recently shifted letting go of limits and started focusing on, yeah, keep, girl, keep going. Keep going. Congratulations on the offer. That's wonderful. Letting go of the limitations and focusing on the end. That's it, girl. That's it. That's it. That's it. That's it right there. Yes. Yes. Keep focusing on the end. Yeah. Keep going. Absolutely. Yep, Courtney, I am getting right back to you this afternoon. All emails I'm catching up on this my whole day is all emails after this pretty much. Thank you guys. It is exciting. It is exciting, Sparkat. It is really, really cool. Always keep going. Always keep going. Yeah, like no idea the capabilities, what we're capable of. It will never, ever cease to surprise you and amaze you. It's beautiful. And on that note, you guys, I do got to get going, unfortunately. But thank you all so much for joining me today. Excellent questions. Love all y'all's energy. Sincerely, I cannot wait to do it again soon. Have a lovely rest of your weekend, wherever in the world you are. Take care and be well as always. And don't forget how powerful you are, guys. Don't forget. Do not forget. And I will talk to you all soon. Take care. Mwah.